Hello, everybody. My name is Dakota Jones. I'm an American trail runner. I grew up in Colorado, which is just incredibly lucky. I grew up in a place really close to where they hold the Hard Rock 100. So I've been running in basically the coolest mountains in Colorado since I was a kid. And that was my introduction to trail running and to outdoor sports in general. And ever since I was a kid, I've wanted to climb mountains and I wanted to ski. And especially when I first volunteered at the Hard Rock 100 when I was 17, I found like this is what I want to do. I love these mountains. I love this sport. I want the adventure. I love the community most of all. It was just this perfect combination of all my favorite things in life, and that's why I've built my life around trail running. And what's so special about trail running in particular, like I think more so than road running, is that we have this connection to the landscape we run through, which is quite unique for running, I think. It's a shared experience with a lot of mountain sports, but I kind of feel like, I mean, road running, track and field, is so interesting, so much to do there. But what's special about trail running is like every course is different, every mountain range is different. So everywhere you go is unique. And over a matter of, hell, 15 years now, I've been learning how important that landscape is to the sports that we partake in. And that gives the value to what we're doing. And ever since I was, in my early 20s, I've wanted to protect the places that we play because, as we all know, there are a host of environmental issues that are damaging the landscapes that we love most every day. And the biggest one, the most encompassing problem, is climate change. And as we've all seen, there's a million examples, but climate change is already affecting our cities, our coastlines, and our mountains worse than ever. And so what I wanted to do, starting probably 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, how can I use what I love most to protect what I love most? I think it's really easy to take this attitude that, by humans are doing things that are damaging the environment, so what we need to do is just stop everything. And that's true to a certain extent, but it's also not possible to a certain extent. People live their lives, and living our lives requires using resources. And that's okay as long as we're very conscientious about how we do it and why we do it, and we take care of these resources so that they are sustainable. And mountain sports might seem like a luxury. In fact, it is. We have the luxury to go out into the mountains for hours, days at a time and challenge ourselves, sometimes extremely hard. And that's a luxury. It's not luxurious necessarily, but we have the time and the money and the, food or whatever to do these things. And so what's best about these sports is that we have the community. The reason you're watching this right now is because we are part of the same outdoor community. Whether you're a trail runner or just interested in trail running or outdoors in general, this is something that we all share. We're part of this world and we have similar values, we have similar goals. We love working hard in beautiful places. And so what we need to do is just use this community to protect these beautiful places. And that's the big problem, is like we haven't come together as a group as well as we need to. And so when I look at how I can protect the places that I play, the reasons I'm doing this is so that I can continue to appreciate this and so that I can pass on these beautiful places and experiences to future generations. And I think that we can't do that by just not going to wild places. Because really what's happening is, the problems are not necessarily coming, not always from the mountains. It's usually like industrial activities far from the mountains that are affecting the mountains. However, that's not always true, and we do need to lessen our impact. And that really gets onto this, I guess, duality. That's a big word. Dichotomy, that's an even bigger word. How about let's just say there's two sides to this issue that I think about. There's like personal actions. What can an individual do? And then what can we do like as a society? And what I try to do in my work now is I want to bridge that gap. What can the individual do to support the larger issue? And I started working on this, I think 3 years ago was my first really big effort. I rode my bike. I did a bike tour from my house in southwestern Colorado up to Colorado Springs, and then I ran the Pikes Peak Marathon, and then I rode back. And the reason I did that was because I was like, driving up there, it's going to use gas. I don't want to contribute to climate change. And what I was doing was I was trying to set this example. I was like, for me, what's most important is protecting wild places. even if that means sacrificing my experience, sorry, even if, what's most important for me is protecting wild places, even if that means sacrificing my ability to race. However, I was like, ideally, I could do both, right? I thought maybe if I could prove that you can ride your bike to a race, live in a sustainable manner, and then do well, and then come back, like that's a great example that I can set. And it worked out perfectly. You won't believe how perfect. I couldn't believe it. I won the race. I biked over there, biked back. We raised over $11,000 for Protect Our Winters, because people were following along. It was a good story, and I loved it. It's one of the things I've done that I'm most proud of. But it's also made me think about a lot of things. I rode a bike made out of steel, which required coal to manufacture. I wore clothes that were probably made in Taiwan. I ate food that had been trucked hundreds or thousands of miles. That doesn't make me a bad person. I was doing the best that I could. But I also have to acknowledge that if I'm trying to save the world, my bike tour isn't going to do that. Even if I bike tour everywhere for the rest of my life, that's not enough. However, if we all start taking these actions, that might be enough. Either way, it changes our relationship with the landscape, and it changes our outlook. If, not just for me, but for everybody, if protecting the places we race is more important than racing, then we're going to have a stronger culture, I think, because we have a shared interest in protecting a place that we all acknowledge is fragile and can change at any moment if we don't protect it. So this has led me onto this camp that I'm doing, which I'm wearing this shirt in my shameless advertising. Totally okay with that. It's called Footprints Running. And my thought there was that I'm going to bring out a bunch of mountain athletes to Colorado, and we're going to help them take the actions that they are most capable of. Because there's also, with my bike tour, you have to acknowledge that I had the ability to take 2 weeks off of my life. I didn't have, if you have a job or kids or honestly like a whole host of other normal parts of your life, if you have these things, you can't just like disappear for 2 weeks or a month or whatever to go ride your bike to this place, run a race, and come back. And so it's almost like I had this incredible luxury that most people don't have. And it's unfair for me to ask you to take the same action. However, there are actions that you can take which are unique to you and your circumstances, your knowledge, your means, anything. You are all more capable than you believe. And I want to help empower you to do that. And so I started this camp with that idea. How can I help people be the best that they can be within their own means? And then I had to realize that, like, okay, I'm just a mountain runner. I'm not actually an expert. Like, what business do I have teaching these things? And so what we did is we hired people who do have business teaching that. And we have experts in environmental sciences and in public policy who are teaching our campers, each of whom has a project. And the campers learn from the experts and then apply those lessons to the projects. And the idea is they go home after the camp and put those projects into action. And so as we work through this camp, our goal is to bridge that gap between individual action and large scale action. And that really gets down, I think, if you maybe are familiar with Protect Our Winters, it's largest in the United States, it's expanding, but it's this organization that is using the outdoor industry to mobilize people to take action on climate. And specifically, they work in the political sphere, encouraging people to vote and to call their representatives and to get involved in the legislation that will make the changes. Because what's really going to stop climate change is when we have government mandates that require renewable energy, electronic vehicles, and all these large-scale actions that an individual can't affect, but the government can. However, on the individual level, if you're just trying to communicate with the President of the United States all the time, you don't feel like you're making much of a difference. It does, but it's really hard to see that change. And so what we're trying to do is we're empowering people to take their individual actions and see that success. And if you go down to your grocery store and you're like, we're not doing plastic bags anymore, this is how we're going to do it, it's going to be better. You create a whole program and you succeed just in one spot, that's incredibly empowering. You see how much you can do and how capable you are. And then you might try it again somewhere else. And then you expand up and up and up. And you become a leader. You become a mentor. People follow you and want to learn from you. And then they go on and do their own projects. And that's how we're going to scale up the climate movement. That's how we're going to scale up climate action. We're going to show people that they're capable of individual actions that mean something. And then we're going to empower them to make those actions larger and give the tools to more and more people. And so it's a big honor for me to be able to work with the Killian Jornet Foundation, because he is doing this. The foundation and Killian are doing this work better than anybody that I know. They're bringing people together, scientists, athletes, brands, events from all over the world to become this united whole that is moving forward to show people that from every level, whether it's what shoes you choose to buy or what, gigantic renewable energy projects your government's going to support, whatever that is, anywhere along that spectrum, these actions matter and you're capable of it, and you just have to find where you're at along that spectrum and then take that action. I think of it sometimes in terms of debt consolidation, which is a weird kind of random analogy, but I think it's true. People sometimes have a lot of debt, and there's like debt for this credit card and debt for this house and all this thing, and you can consolidate it. And they're like, you should put it all together into one giant debt and then pay that down. But it's not a good way to do that, because then you have this enormous amount of debt. It's really the same amount, but it's gigantic. Whereas if you if you line all your debts up from small to large and pay off the smallest one, that's a victory. And then you pay off the next smallest one. That's an even bigger victory. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make the entire world run on renewable energy using carbon-free technology. That's a gigantic goal. But if we just go down to the grocery store and get them to stop using plastic bags, if you encourage your neighbors to invest in a group of solar, in a solar rooftop project, anything like that, these are small actions that mean something, and you're capable of it. And so I hope that you'll follow along with both the Killian Jornet Foundation and my Camp Footprints, because we're creating tools for you to take action at your own scale, by your own means, all over the world. So thanks.